today we are going to be reading Jim Butcher's Summer Night. It's the fourth book in the series. If you haven't done so yet, please go out and buy all the books so that you can read along with us and get through the series with us. Today what we'll be doing is we'll be on chapter 18. Again, on Summer Night, chapter 18. Missed the previous ones, please do look in the playlist below. It's probably on that side. But anyway, we're going to go ahead and start for you. I got the hell away from the Rothschild and found a payphone. Murphy picked up the phone first. Dresden? Yeah. Finally. You all right? I need to talk to you. There was a short pause, and then her voice softened. Where? I rubbed at my head with the heel of my hand, trying to nudge my brain into gear. My thoughts stumbled around sluggishly, and in no particular order. Don't know. Someplace public. Bunch of people. Quiet enough to talk. In Chicago? At this time of night? Yeah. Okay, Murph said. I guess I know a place. She told me, and we agreed to meet in 20 minutes and hung up. As I pulled into the parking lot, I reflected that odds were that not a lot of clandestine meetings involving mystical assassination, theft of arcane power, and the balance of power in the realms of the supernatural had taken place in a Walmart supercenter. But then again, maybe they had. Hell, for all I know, the mole men used the changing rooms as a place to discuss plans for world domination, and the psychic jellyfish from Planet X, and the disembodied brains in a jar from the Klato Nebula. I know, I wouldn't have looked for them there. After midnight, the Walmart wasn't crowded, but it wasn't the usual deserted parking lot you'd expect after hours around Wriggleville either. The store was opened all night, and there were plenty of people in town like Chicago who would do their shopping late. I had to park about halfway down a row and walk through the cool and evening before stepping into the refrigerator coal of the enormous store, whose massive air conditioners had too much momentum to slow down for a paltry hours of darkness. The greeter nodded sleepily to me as I came in, and I passed up his offer of a shopping cart before I'd gotten all the way into the store. Murphy fell into step beside me. She was wearing a Cubs jacket, jeans, and sneakers, and she had her blonde hair tucked up underneath an undecorated black ball cap. She walked with her hands in her pockets, and her expression, one of belligerent annoyance, didn't seem to fit on someone that short. Wordlessly, we walked past a little hole-in-the-wall franchise business, closed and locked up behind their grills, and settled down at the generic cafe near the deli section of the grocery store. Murphy chose a booth where she could watch the door, and I sat across from her where I could watch the back. She picked up a couple of cups of coffee, bless her noble heart. I dumped sugar and creamer into mine until bits floated on the surface, stirred it up, and took a slow sip that nearly scalded my tongue. You don't look so good, Murphy said. I nodded. You want to talk about it? To my surprise, I did. I set the coffee down and said, without preamble, I'm furious, Murph. I can't think straight. I'm so mad. Why? Because I'm screwed, that's why. No matter what I'm doing, I'm getting the take up in my ass. Lines appeared between her eyebrows. What do you mean? It's the job, I said. Investigating Raoul's death. There's a lot of resistance, and I don't know if I can beat it. And if I don't beat it before tomorrow night, things are really going to go to hell. The client isn't being helpful? I let out a bitter laugh. Hell, for all I know, the client is doing this to me just so I can get myself horribly killed. You don't trust them, then? Not as far as I can kick her. And the people who are supposed to be working with me are driving me nuts. I shook my head. I feel like some guy in a magician's box just before he starts pushing all those swords through it. Only it's not a trick, and the swords are real, and they're going to start skewering me any second. The bad guys are doing their best to get me whipped up and screwed. The good guys think I'm some kind of ticking psycho just waiting to go off, and it's like pulling teeth to try and get a straight answer out of any of them. You think you're in danger? I know it, I said. And it's just too damned big. I fell quiet for a moment and sipped my coffee. So, Murph said, why did you want to see me? Because the people who should be backing me up are about to throw me to the wolves. And because the only person actually helping me is green enough to get himself killed without a babysitter. I set the empty cup down, and because, when I asked myself who could I trust, I came up with a damned short list. You're it. She settled back in her seat with a slow, long exhaltation. You're going to tell me what's going on? If you're willing, I said. I know I've kept things from you, but I've done it because I thought it was how I could protect you best. Because I didn't want you to get hurt. Yeah, she said, I know. It's annoying as hell. I tried to smile. In this case, ignorance is bliss. If I tell you this stuff, it's going to be serious. Just knowing it could be dangerous for you. And you aren't going to be able to get away from it, Murph. Not ever again. She regarded me soberly. Then, why tell me now? Because you deserve to know. Long since... Because you've risked your life for me, and to protect people from all the supernatural crud that's out there. Because being around me has brought you trouble, and knowing more about it might help you if it comes your way again. My cheeks flushed, and I admitted, and because I need your help. This is a bad one, I'm afraid. I'm not going anywhere, Harry. I gave her a tired smile. One last thing. If you come in on this, you have to understand something. You have to promise me that you won't haul SI and the rest of the police in on everything. You can dig up information, use them discreetly, but you can't round up a posse and go gunning for demons. Her eyes narrowed. Why the hell not? Because bringing mortal authorities into a conflict is the nuclear assault of the supernatural world. No one wants to see it happen. And if they thought you might do it, they'd kill you. Or they'd pull strings higher up and get you fired, or framed for something. They would never allow it to pass. You'd get yourself ruined, or hurt, or killed, and it's likely a lot of people would go down with you. I paused to let the words sink in, then asked, Still want me to tell you? She closed her eyes for a moment and then nodded once. Hit me. You sure? Yeah. All right, I said, and I told Murphy all of it. It took a while. I told her about Justine and about Elaine. I told her about the supernatural forces and politics at play in and around the city. I told her about the war I'd started because of what the Red Court had done to Susan. I told her about the fairies and Raoul's murder. And most of all, I told her about the White Council. Those spineless, arrogant, egomaniacal sons of bitches, Murphy growled. Who the hell do they think they are, selling out their own people like that? Some silent, delighted part of me let out a mental cheer at her reaction. She made a disgusted noise and shook her head. So, let me get this straight, she said. You started a war between the Council and the Red Court, and the Council needs the support of the fairies in order to have a chance at victory. But they can't get that support unless you find this killer and restore the stolen magical power thingy. Mantle, I interjected. Whatever, Murphy said. And if you don't get the magic what's-it, the Council fixes you up in a carry-out box for the vampires. Yeah, I said. And if you don't find the killer before midsummer, the fairies slug it out with each other. Which could be bad, no matter who won. It would make El Niño look as mild as an early spring thaw. And you want my help? You've worked homicide before. You're better at it than me. And that goes without saying, she said, a trace of a smile on her mouth. Look, Harry, if you want to find out who did the killing, the best way to start is to figure out why. Why what? Why the murder? Why Raoul got bumped off? Oh, right, I said. And why would someone try to take you out in the park yesterday? It could have been almost anyone, I said. It wasn't like a brilliant attempt as far as they go. Wrong, Murphy said. Not neat, but not stupid either. After you called earlier tonight, I snooped around. I frowned at her. You found something? Yeah. Turns out there have been 2 armed robberies in the past 3 days. First outside of Cleveland, and then at a gas station just this side of Indianapolis towards Chicago. That doesn't sound out of the ordinary. No, Murphy said, not unless you throw in that both cases, someone was grabbed at the scene and abducted, and both times the video security broke down just as the robbery started. Eyewitnesses in Indiana identified the perpetrator as a woman. I whistled. Sounds like our ghoul, then. Murph nodded, her lips pressed together. Any chance those people she grabbed are alive? I shook my head. Not likely. She probably ate them. A ghoul can go through 40 or 50 pounds of meat a day. She'll put whatever left someplace where animals can get to it, cover her tracks. She nodded. I figured. The pattern matches several incidents over the past 20 years. It took me a while to piece it together, but something similar has happened 3 times in connection with the operations of a contract killer who calls herself the Tigress. A friend at the FBI told me that they suspect her of a number of killings in the New Orleans area, and that Interpol thinks she pulled jobs in Europe and Africa, too. Hired gun, I said. So, who did the hiring? From what you've said, my money's on the vampires. They're the ones who benefit most from you being dead. If they punch your ticket, the counselor will probably sue for peace, right? Maybe, I said, but I doubted it. If that's what they had in mind, it's a stupid timing. They Pearl Harbored a bunch of wizards somewhere in Russia 2 nights ago, and the council was pretty angry about it. Okay, so maybe they figure that if your investigation finds Raoul's killer and gets the council brownie points with the fairies, they're in for a real fight. Killing you before that happens makes sense. Except that when it went down, I wasn't involved in the investigation yet. Murphy shook her head. I wish we could get you together with a sketch artist. Describe her. I doubt it would help much. She was in makeup at first, and I didn't have a good second look. By the time I was paying attention, she mostly looked like something out of the Japanese horror cartoon. She glanced down at her now cold coffee. Not much we can do but wait, then. I've got a couple of sources trying to turn up more, but I wouldn't bet anything on them. I'll let you know. I nodded. Even if we find her, it might not help with the fairy stuff. Right, she said. Mind if I ask you a few questions? Maybe I'll see something you don't. Okay. This dreadlock chick, Mav, you said her name was. Yeah. How sure are you, your instincts about her, that she couldn't have done the murder, I mean? Pretty close to certain, but not completely. I frowned thoughtfully. No, fairies are trickier that way. Not completely. Murphy nodded. What about Mab? I rubbed at my chin, feeling the beginning of stubble. She never out and out denied responsibility for Raoul's death, but I don't think she's the killer. What makes you say that? I don't know. I do. She could have picked anyone she wanted to represent her interests, and she chose you. If she wanted to cover her tracks, it would make more sense for her to choose someone less capable and with less experience. She wouldn't have picked someone as stupidly stubborn as you. I scowled. Not stupidly, I said. I just don't like to leave things undone. Murphy snorted. You don't know the meaning of give up, dolt. You see my point? Yeah, I guess it's reasonable. So, what about this summer girl? I blew out a breath. It doesn't seem to hang on her very well. She was kinder than any fairy I've ever met. She could have been pretty darned unpleasant to me, but she wasn't. How about the other mortal, then, the Winter Knight? He's a violent, vicious heroin addict. I could see him tossing Red down the stairs, sure, but I'm not sure he's savvy enough to have worked enough magic to steal the mantle. He was more of a plunder now and think later sort of guy. I shook my head. I've got 3 more fairies to talk to, though. Summer Queen and both mothers. Murphy nodded. When will you see them? As soon as I can work out how. The ladies are the closest to the mortal world. They aren't hard to find. The queens and the mothers, though, will live in Fairy proper, and I'll have to go there to find a guide. Murphy lifted her eyebrows. A guide? I grimaced. Yeah, I don't want to, but it's looking like I'm going to visit my godmother a visit now. Murphy quirked an eyebrow. Seriously? You have a fairy godmother? Long story, I said. Okay, I want to get moving. If you could. The store lights went out all at once. My heart all but stopped. A second later, battery-powered emergency lights came up and revealed a rolling cloud of silver-gray mist spreading into the store from the doors. The mist rolled over and startled the cashier, and the woman slumped, her mouth slightly opened and her eyes unfocused and staring. "Good Lord," Murphy said softly. "Harry, what's happening?" I had already gotten out of the booth and grabbed the salt shaker from our table, the one next to it. Trouble. Come with me. Thank you for listening to Chapter 18 of the Dresden Files. Stay tuned. Let's see what this silver mist is, and let's see what happens to Harry and his friend. Yeah, his friend, the cop. Let's go ahead and stop it there. We will see you later. Please do give us a thumbs up, like, subscribe to our channel, help our channel grow. Thank you very much, and you guys have a great day.